Mrs. Məhfuzə Zeynalovanın from the National History Museum of Azerbaijan. She will present us the genesis of pottery presentation in Azerbaijan based on the archaeological collections of the National Museum of History of Azerbaijan that we will see in Friday. Məhfuzə, please.
Our conference about museums, collection, and industrial heritage. And I'm from the History Museum, and I want to make my presentation about the pottery collection of our museum and development of pottery production in Azerbaijan from the ancient times to the modern days. Traditional crafts and skills are one of the forms of artistic expression of folk art. For centuries passed down from generation to generation, they have formed the historical, spiritual, and aesthetic experiences of people, as well as spiritual and moral foundations of human development. The importance and significance of the research is also defined by fact that there is an urgent need to change the protection of the cultural heritage, as well as revival of the traditional ethnic culture and its further development. Over time, pottery making has become one of the oldest and most widespread of the decorative arts in Azerbaijan for its simplicity of use and through its spheres of life. The primary objective of this ongoing study is to investigate and examine the development process and the emergence of pottery craft, identify the specificity of types and ornamentation of pottery ceramics in its different stages. The history of pottery in Azerbaijan dates back to over 10,000 years ago, during which this type of handicraft pottery seems to have undergone a process of adaptation and modification in terms of production, techniques, shapes, ornamentation, which particularly depended upon purpose and application of items. The collection of pottery of the National Museum of History of Azerbaijan is the largest in terms of the number of items. The pottery collection represents all historical periods of human activity on the territory of Azerbaijan, starting from the Neolithic age until the present day. Household items, implements of labor, tools, pottery objects used in ritual and cults were mainly products of local craftsmen. The main factor of multifaceted pottery development in this region was the presence of raw material sources, clay deposits. Over 80 different types of clay have been unearthed within Mingechevir, and a large number of clay objects was characterized by an extraordinarily high ceramic value, being used not only as construction material, but also as high-grade ceramics. The oldest samples of the Neolithic and Neolithic period were rude, irregularly shaped, thick-walled and bird-molded utensils. Designs being executed in clay, either in relief or as incised ornaments on large vessels pertaining to the Neolithic period, were found on the while crafts became increasingly specialized and craft market became increasingly diverse. Each culture had its own techniques, shape, color of clay, and ornamentation. The Kuraras archaeological culture existed approximately 4000 BC and 2200 BC on the territory of North Caucasus, Transcaucasia, in the neighboring regions of the Middle East. Culture bearers lived in fortress dwellings, and its walls were built of mute bricks. So, in Kur-Aras settlement, similar forms of residential architecture are observed in the form of circular plum buildings with Neolithic monuments, which testify to the tradition of country. On the territory of Kur-Aras cultural archaeologists have unearthed numerous artifacts proving the existence of the cult of bull, which symbolized strength and resembling the nostrils of a bull, and numerous clay zoomorphic figures, among which cattle were the most common and prevalent. The Middle Bronze Age on the territory of Azerbaijan is presented by the Nakhchivanian archaeological culture. This is the 2nd millennium BC. A large number of exquisite monochrome as well as polychrome glazed ceramics were unearthed in the ground burials, stone boxes and barrels of the reviewed period. The late Bronze Age and early Iron Age are represented Khojaly Kedabic archaeological culture. It is 13th, 7th century BC. Besides bronze weapons and adornments, large amount of pottery was unearthed in ground burials and barrels. Black and grey glazed ceramics of unique shapes and decor, being a valuable historical source for studying the tangible, intangible, and spiritual history of Azerbaijan. Of particular interest are zoomorphic vessels, which besides its household purpose, have a decorative and ritual character. There are unique boot-shaped vessels with curved tops, the shape of which is testifying that in the 1st millennium BC, people in this region had already been making leather shoes. This type of Caucasian boots existed in Azerbaijan until the beginning of the 20th century AD. The other interesting artifacts are clay vessels and stamps with solar symbols attesting to the beliefs of the ancient people. Decoration applied to the pottery objects used techniques of inlay in fancy patterns in the form of deep cuts was with inserts of white paste. Similar ceramic products with ornamental motifs in the form of wavy lines, circles, triangles, which were discovered mainly in ancient Ganja, were made until the era of antiquity. Pottery art of the Caucasian Albanian was also reflected in burial rituals in the form of jar grave burial pertaining to the 4th century BC, 8th century AD. Initially, the dead were buried in large earthenware jars in a heavily controlled position on the side, together with burial implements containing household items, metal objects, wood, stone, clay, glass, and paste. This culture belonged to the affiliation of the population, territory, as well as even the country's borders. The manufacture of toys was also coincided with the old pottery production. Hand-molded toys of red clay animals, whistles, dices, and other objects are astonished with the softness of the outlines and the ingenuity of the masters. Clay also served as raw material for the recreation of the idols of female forms with distinct signs of reproductive characteristics. The navel was especially decorated, the chest and neck were covered with adornments. However, the objects of burial decoration are not only the sources of belief and worldwide, but also evidence of taste preferences in female fancy decoration, as well as the source of jewelry art of ancient Azerbaijan. The bright-colored glazed ceramic is typical for the era of the developed Middle Age. Pottery objects of green-brown color were decorated with humans' images, animals, and calligraphic inscriptions made in Arabic script, which served not only the pattern but also contained data about the manufacturer. There are various types of ornamentation and decoration of vessels, bowls, dishes, including bright patterns of coating materials, tiles covering facades of buildings in this period. Glazed ceramic products were widespread, especially among the urban residents, because besides their utilitarian purpose, painted vessels were part of the interior decoration in the Azerbaijani homes. Furthermore, glazed ceramics embodied a large art culture of the local people. It should be noted that history of glazed ceramics in various areas of the medieval world has common ground as well as general features, with general trends showing further progress, representing a unique historical and artistic phenomenon. Therefore, these artifacts are evidence of cultural links and countries and peoples' interaction in the Middle Ages. Of particular interest are the spheroconical vessels in terms of shape and application, which were discovered in the Middle Ages, not only in Azerbaijan, but also in Egypt, West Asia, in Asia Minor, Iran, and Central Asia, in North Caucasus, and Crimea, Volga region. The main characteristic and typical feature of these vessels is spherical upper and conical lower parts. The common shape of the lower half of the cone is completed by variations of the bottom, elongated, pointed, rounded, flat, etc. Spherocones have a neck in the form of a small hole with a diameter of 3/8 mm, designed to hermetically block it. Spheroconical vessels were made from fine-grained refractory clay. The outer surface of the vessels was made according to different techniques. Most of these objects were decorated with overhead and stamped patterns. The complete disclosure of the purpose of the object is more complicated by the fact that besides its direct application and purpose, these items continue to serve the same purpose in everyday life, our world as well. The underground pottery water pipes of the 11th, 12th centuries, found during archaeological excavations near cities such as Ganja and Gabala, are the evidence of high urban culture. In this period, Azerbaijani towns were distinguished by a high level of accomplishment. In these towns, constructions such as underground vaulted tunnels with paper water pipes were discovered. The elements of the water pipe were clay pipes with a diameter of 12 to 20 centimeters and inland up to 60 centimeters with a socket at the end in which was inserted the narrow end of the other pipe. Towns had a solid and broad network of clay water pipes that supplied people with spring water. Pottery traditions are traced in the subsequent period in the history of everyday life afterwards as well. Those, according to the material collection of the National Museum of History of Azerbaijan, we can trace all stages of the development of techniques, forms, and ornamentation of pottery, proving the identity and recognizable features of local products. In addition, more complex vessel structures and pottery techniques demonstrate long duration and deliberate processing of its adaptation for use in everyday life. So various forms of ceramics and terms used to describe the pottery products as well as the decoration applied to it that reached our time attest to the high level of welfare and recreation needs and aesthetic tastes of our ancestors. Historically, pottery has always been one of the oldest and most widespread crafts in Azerbaijan, from the oldest Neolithic layer to this day, which reveals all the traditions of genetic continuity. At the same time, the presence of various ceramic collections testify to the development of this type of craft in conjunction with trade and craft centers of the East. And today, the pottery production is continued in Azerbaijan. We have some factories in the territory of Azerbaijan where people make their pottery production, and we use it in our everyday life too. We use them, we make some special national foods for them, and so this tradition is continued. Thank you.
presentation that showed us